Good evening, Richard Best, Director of Capital Projects and Planning for Seattle Public Schools. As I noted at introduction, Director Pinkham, Ballard High School will be a racially balanced school when Lincoln High School has all 4 years, or all 4 grades at that school. In 2019, Ballard High School will be considered racially imbalanced, but it is progressing on a downward trend. And when we have all 4 grade levels at Lincoln High School, Ballard High School will be a racially balanced school. We had a conversation with OSPI, and they confirmed the methodology that we were using for our racial balance assessment of Ballard, Ballard, Roosevelt, and Lincoln High Schools.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of the concerns that was brought up about it just being Ballard only, but OSPI has looked at it and said, yes, you've also addressed Lincoln and Roosevelt.
Correct. And as I noted at introduction, the first 3 years of the analysis, all 3 schools were racially imbalanced. With the revisions to the boundaries for Lincoln High School, after those first 3 years, Roosevelt and Lincoln became balanced and were balanced for the next 5 years and are projected to be balanced when the schools open. Ballard remained racially imbalanced, but becomes racially balanced when we have 4 grade levels at Lincoln High School.
Director Burke.
Thanks for sharing the update with us. And I just wanted to ask, thinking back to the process by which we drew the boundaries and trying to get far enough out ahead of these things so that we don't have this particular question has come up before. Can we integrate the OSPI process into our boundary revisions when there's a new school so that essentially this work will already have been done and vetted by the board? And when we ask you, what about the racial imbalance? You can say, remember that boundary discussion that we had that all of us agreed is the best way to provide opportunities for all of our students. Is there a place for that?
I'm going to look to Dr. Herndon to answer that because he oversees enrollment planning.
Flip Herndon, Associate Superintendent of Operations and Facilities. It would depend on the timing of the project. So generally, you have to do the racial imbalance if you're doing a major renovation or replacement of a building. So if you are modifying the boundaries according to that project, which we are doing in this case with Lincoln because it's a new school, then you would have to do that calculation. If you're just doing a boundary modification, you're not doing any renovations with the building, you don't have to go through this process and deform. It would also depend on where in the timeline you are doing this. If you're doing a boundary modification, but you're not doing the project until 6 years later, you're going to have to do it again when you get closer to when you're actually filling out the paperwork. So is there a way to do it? Yes, I mean, we can certainly look at that, but it also depends on the timing of the boundaries and when the project is being completed.
Thank you.
Director Mack.
It's a little off topic for this specific bar, but I think it very much relates to what Director Burke is bringing up, and that is, I think we have about 5 different boundary adjustments that we're looking at probably doing for November. And if I remember correctly, one of them might be Wing Luke. Is that correct? To balance with one of the neighboring schools, that we may actually end up adjusting that boundary from what we already went through the process of deciding was a...
No, that one is Maple and Van Asselt, not Wing Luke.
So Wing Luke's not presently included in that?
Correct. Wing Luke has its own piece that we're doing. I think we already did the racial imbalance for Wing Luke, the deform for OSPI.
I do recall approving that
Right.
and having it come through.
Yep.
But the question that's raised here of how boundaries were set in 2013 for a lot of the BEX 4 projects, but there have been substantial changes to that plan since. And I think Director Burke is raising a really good question around if we don't have a current project where OSPI is requiring us to do that analysis, are we folding that analysis into our boundary redraw process? And I think that's just an open question that I appreciate being raised here. And we can go ahead and move on to,
Can I ask for clarification on
Sure.
what you're asking for, Directors Burke and Mack? Are you asking that operations and enrollment planning bring to us any significant deviations in ratio balance or imbalance when we are adjusting our boundaries? To make that part of our status, our standard operating procedure?
I know Director Burke might have a different idea in his mind, and I'm sure it's complementary to maybe what I'm thinking. But currently, as I've watched the processes go forward, there isn't an intentional analysis around the racial balance of that boundary change. That's not something that I think we've been doing.
We actually have been doing that. For this last ones, if you recall, the analyses for all of the modifications, we started doing this more along the Cedar Park when we were looking at the Cedar Park boundaries. Since that, which was about the last 2 years, for each of the boundary modifications, we've looked at the impacted demographics and the changes. We've looked at racial FRL and ELL populations and special education populations. So we have been doing the impacts of boundary changes and which communities are being impacted, and then what the remaining boundaries would look like demographically. So that is part of our current process.
So it's part of the current process, but I'm not sure if, even from my perspective, and I know I'm relatively new to being operations chair, but I've been following along the process, I'm not sure that that analysis and that information is as transparent and clearly a part of the process of boundary creation as it could be. So what my request is that this is something that does need to be folded into our boundary process and community engagement, and that we need to be even more transparent that we are doing that analysis and considering those factors.
Director Burke and then Director DeWolf, please.
I don't want to spend too much time on this issue, so just briefly, I know that we've touched on this particular topic, this particular deform, and by the time we're there, it's difficult for us to have any type of response other than whether it's imbalanced or not. It's what we've done in a lot of cases, and so it feels like we're in a reactive mode. And so that was really the intent behind my question is, if it's something that we actually can influence, that our hands are not already tied by our geography or our city demographics, how do we do it early enough in the process? And you don't have to answer that, but just know that that's sort of an intentional request.
Director DeWolf, please.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate more upstream, but I do remember Ashley Davies when we had our boundaries conversation. My first one as a board director, the very explicit call outs on the maps. Those very important and long conversations we had earlier, I think in the winter, and there was some call outs around those. So I know that particularly here, transparency, I've seen it, so I appreciate you doing that work.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, concerns from my colleagues? Director Pinkham.
Yeah, so again, I think as you look at the bar that's there, I think, again, the public comment is saying we have numbers for Ballard new boundary 2018-19 through 2021-22, but not for Lincoln or Roosevelt. Is there a reason why we didn't provide those numbers?
I believe they are all in there. So the chart shows the balance or racial imbalance between all three of those schools. I believe it's
Look
an
at the last
attachment.
page, Ballard new boundary. There's like an additional section there, 2018-19 all the way to 2021, but not for Roosevelt new boundary or Lincoln new boundary?
There's an attachment that actually has those highlighted. There's one that says Lincoln boundary, one that says Roosevelt existing boundary, Roosevelt new boundary, Ballard existing boundary, and Ballard new boundary.
Okay, so I am looking at something that does not have what you have.
It is an attachment to the bar, so I'm not quite sure what you're looking at because I can't see your screen.
I'm online with what was posted online.
Yep, I've got it online too. It is, let me tell you where it is on the attachment. I was just looking at that as well. It is pages 9 and 10. If you click the link on the bar, that's at least what I'm pulling up on.
Yeah, and then, as again, I have it up here too, and then on page 9, Roosevelt existing boundary, Roosevelt new boundary,
Yep.
I do not see anything beyond 2017-18. And same for Lincoln on page
Oh,
8.
yeah. So you
Now, while
have it
Lincoln
for-
just has Lincoln boundary,
you have Ballard,
since
but
there's
you
no
don't have
new
the
or old for
Roosevelt
that, but there's no projection for Lincoln
Yeah,
beyond
okay.
17-18.
Because the last 5 years, for both Roosevelt and for Lincoln High School, the boundary that was created for Lincoln High School were racially balanced. We did some trend analysis for those, because Ballard was not racially balanced. We carried those out to affirm that the school would be racially balanced when we had all 4 grade levels in that school, Director Pinkham.
Yeah, page 10.
You
I
can
it
see, if you look at Lincoln High School, just draw your attention, if you look at Lincoln High School, you can see from 2013-14 to 2017 and 18, it is a racially balanced school, and the trends are actually getting even more, better, more racially balanced. That is the same analysis that we did for Roosevelt. If you look at 2010 through 2013, you can see it was not a racially balanced school. From 2013-14 to 2017-18, it's a racially balanced school, and the trends are getting better. If you look at Ballard High School, you can see that it is not a racially balanced school until 2021, 2022. That is the first year Lincoln High School will have all 4 grade levels in that school, and will be a fully functional, fully operating with all 4 grade levels high school. And you can see that analysis shows in 2021, 2022, it will be a racially balanced school.
Onyede, did you have some comments on this particular
Well, I have a-
issue? Because
I have
you
a
are more than
question.
welcome to make them.
I have a question, like, what is, like statistically, what is racially balanced or imbalanced?
Oh. Well, we reference a WAC, which is the Washington Administrative Code, and it provides guidelines that we have to follow in implementation. And this WAC that we reference is 392-342-025. It's a rather complicated code, has 3 sections. It looks at districts if they have a single minority group greater than 50%. It looks at districts that have multiple large minority groups. And then it looks at, there's 3 parts. When the combined minority enrollment of a school varies from the district-wide combined minority by plus or minus 25%. So there's 3 different sections that we have to implement an analysis for. And we follow that WAC and do the analysis based upon that WAC.
Does that help?
Yes, somewhat.
Okay, Director Mack.
Just for clarification, Ballard has been racially imbalanced for a long time, correct?
We did
That's
the
what-
analysis for Ballard back to 2010, 2011. I can't speak to it before then.
Prior to that, so the
Yeah, prior
analysis
to
shows
that.
that it's been racially imbalanced for quite a while.
Correct. The analysis shows that it's been
And that-
racially imbalanced.
The analysis and the projections forward, that with the opening of Lincoln and the new boundaries that have been drawn, once it is all 4 years, not the first 2 years when we're transitioning, but once it's 4 years, Ballard will no longer be racially imbalanced. So in effect, the opening of Lincoln and the boundaries we've set will create more racial imbalance in Ballard and in Lincoln.
Will create racially balanced schools in
Yes.
Ballard and at Lincoln, correct?
Which it isn't now.
And Ballard is not today, correct?
Which is
Okay.
Well, I
Director
guess-
Pinkham, can you
yeah,
wrap it up, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
I'm
you.
following you, but I think for me and for some people in the public, would appreciate then, hey, if you're going to carry it out for Ballard, carry it out for Roosevelt and Lincoln as well. And don't just say, yeah, you see the trends it's going, so we expect that. Because you're doing it for one, it seems like I would expect it to be done for the others.
Yep. Appreciate your point. Okay.
Okay, seeing no further comments, questions, concerns, roll call, please.
Director Patu,
Aye.
Director Pinkham,
Aye.
Director Burke,
Aye.
Director DeWolf,
Aye.
Director Geary. Oh, sorry. Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Harris.
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we have come to the time for board members' comments. Can we please pay attention to the clock? Can we please pay attention to repeating each other? And we will be taking a 15-minute break before we go into action items at the conclusion of director comments. Director DeWolf, you're up first.
I promise I will be very brief. First, wanted to just say thank you to our professionals here in the audience and just be unequivocal, at least from my perspective, the support and appreciation for all that you do, which kind of feeds into my next comment. Last week, was really grateful to stand with President Harris and Assistant Superintendent Clover Codd to be the nation's largest urban school district, and for the first time here in Seattle at the John Sanford Center, celebrating Pride Month by raising the rainbow and the trans pride flag to kick off Pride Month, which for me is really meaningful as a queer person. But one of the things that we don't often do is we don't kind of get into the weeds when we say staff, and I want to be very clear, particularly from my perspective. The event was to celebrate and illustrate our commitment to LGBTQ students, staff, and that includes everybody from our custodians, our cooks, our nurses, our teachers, paraeducators, paraprofessionals. And so I also just want to affirm all of the LGBTQ paraprofessionals and know that we see you and so grateful for you. Basically, it was a really exciting time for us to honor and value the contributions of the LGBT community and the enrichment of our schools. I was really grateful to the African American Male Advisory Committee. Was able to go sit in on a meeting a couple weeks ago, and we'll continue to show up for those meetings and be a part of that work. Had some interesting news from the Families and Education Levy. The council presented their proposed amendments, or yeah, that's the best word I can use. And really excited to see that the council has put forward money for Nova High School's health clinic to seed funding there, half of maybe the actual amount they need, as well as about $2.3 million for students experiencing homelessness, and then an also increase of funding for family support workers. So hoping that obviously we can see that levy through, given some of the conversations around taxes in our city. Just wanted to thank our student speaker. So grateful for you, but also just reminding me, particularly in these very challenging times, just the awesome students that we have. So thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you as our next president. Yes. I want to reiterate too, OSPI released a report in April that we have 4,280 students experiencing homelessness in Seattle Public Schools. 708 of those are unaccompanied minors. Many of those students are at schools like Seattle World School. We have about 404 of those students identify as Native American. If you do the math, that's about 10% of our students experiencing homelessness are Native, as well as 125 students who are unsheltered who are living in abandoned buildings, cars, parks, tents, and this is a huge, it's a crime, I think, and it's fairly immoral, and I wish that our state lawmakers did more to support them. One of the things that I encourage you to do is to contact your state legislators and remind them that transportation funding is abysmal when it comes to students experiencing homelessness, and if they actually wanted to do anything about supporting these students, they would put more money in for transportation. I do just want to mention Ryan De La Cruz, the event on Friday at 8 a.m. at MLK Boulevard and Rainier Avenue. I've been having a hard time with this week. Particularly as we head into in 2 weeks, I'll be at Nova, Seattle World School, and Garfield's graduation, and just the emotional toil that not only this takes on us here as board directors, but all of the Franklin community. And so just know that we are standing with you and here for you however we can support you. I wish there was more we could do, so I just ask folks here in the audience and also watching at home that we do need your help in responding to this crisis. We can do as much as we can here at the school board level, but we need you and encourage you to please contact your state lawmakers and make sure that they're prioritizing gun responsibility in the 2019 state legislative session. This is ridiculous, and I do not want to have to keep coming back for these moments of silence. We are losing too many of our students, and it is a crime, and I am very emotional about that. The last thing is I will be visiting Middle College next week, and I look forward to meeting those students who had a really awesome opportunity to meet one of the Seahawks players. And I'm so sorry, I'm not a sports person. I don't know who it was for the Seahawks, but a Seahawks person came to Middle College, and I'm really excited to go meet those students. Some Seahawks person, sorry. But thank you to all of the speakers today, particularly our student speakers. I had a really great conversation with Nate as he is exiting his time here, and just really reminded me of my commitment to students and centering students in this work. So thank you to you two for being here to remind us of the importance of serving you. So thank you.
Director Burke, then Director Patu.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start by thanking Anya Day for joining us. You're a natural, confident leader. Thanks for sharing your presence, your smile, which keeps coming out. It's like you can't hide it. So that's the first time I came and sat behind this dais and looked out, and it scared the snot out of me. And so you handled yourself with poise, confidence. It was awesome. So thank you for that. I really enjoyed the hearing about not just the music behind it, but the work of Seattle Music Partners. It's a great example of how we as a district rely on our community-based organizations, and what they're doing is so cool, not just that they're teaching music to kids, which is cool in itself, but that they're connecting high school musicians with elementary musicians. So there's a peer mentoring thing going on there, and we see that with some of our other CBOs, where we're truly leveraging the expertise of our students to help younger students see themselves a couple years down the line. So I couldn't not say that. As far as the student athletes and all the recognitions, I think Superintendent Nyland covered that really well, but I just wanted to put a shout out. It's neat to read the paper and see oh, there's a Seattle athlete. Oh, there's a Seattle team. Oh, there's one of our high schools. And this is a citywide enthusiasm when our students do well. And it was cool to bring the chess champions here. My own kids participated in chess in the elementary years. And those chess competitions, they're intense. I kid you not. Like a room full of 300 kids where they're make your first move. It's intense. So that was great. Thank you to our students, or congratulations to our Seal of Biliteracy students, and thanks to Michelle Aoki and her team. And all the educators that have helped to make that happen for those kids. And so this is where I'm going to throw a little personal story in there. I've actually got one of mine on that list, I'm happy to say. As my last one graduates, he made it to a list, and I got to see it come before the board. And the personal story around it is that just 2 days ago, we're sitting around the house, and here's my son teaching my wife, who's college educated in Spanish. She took some college classes in Spanish, teaching her how to conjugate irregular verbs in Spanish. And she's like, oh, I forgot that one. They went on for like an hour and a half with that. It was really cool. So that was neat. I can't help but be really excited about the CTE partnership with Molly Moon and Seattle Summer. And all I can say is, are you ready? You know, that's going to be good. So it was neat that the students are excited, whether it's about a career pathway in culinary or whether it's just a cool opportunity to work with a business on a really tasty treat. It was a neat experience, and it sounded to me from hearing their testimony that maybe they're actually working with some of our other academies in business and finance, because they're really working on the upsell for that. So speaking to some of the topics of testimony and other hot topics, around athletic fields, I think that's one of the places that I struggle with personally. You know, I like the environment. Some of our neighborhood environments are really cool, but we're struggling across the city with growth. You know, the homelessness is a huge aspect of that, but there's all sorts of other things around population density, lighting pollution, noise, just parking, all of these elements. And so as we get a higher density city, we end up with higher utilization of our city parks, we end up with higher utilization of district fields, and as we're asking for a joint use agreement for students to be using city parks, being a good neighbor means letting the city, other citizens have their soccer games and be able to use some of our resources. And I think that's for us as stewards of public resources, we have to find ways that we're best leveraging the generosity of our voters. And so I do struggle with that, how we can put the best public lighting out without disrupting neighbors. Thank you, Director DeWolf, for bringing up the proposed changes under the Families Education Promise, Preschool Promise, FEP. The city levy. I went to the council hearing on that this morning, and key elements: restoring the majority of elementary funding. Formerly, we're currently at I believe about $10 million a year. The proposal was for $2 million a year. The council under Councilmember Johnson and Gonzalez are proposing $8 million a year, and adding funding to support 15 family support workers, and seed funding for the school-based health center at Nova High School. And Dr. Mark Perry was attending with a group of Nova students, testifying about the needs for the LGBTQ teen health center at that site. Concluding, are you going to talk about the Triatrade that you attended? Yes. Okay. I have a director meeting Saturday, June 9th, this Saturday, Greenwood Library, 4 p.m. to 5:30. And I want to close again by thanking Nate Van Duzer. You're awesome. You're a pleasure to work with. We wish you the best. We hope we see lots of you in the future in big places.
Director Patu.
Good evening. My condolence to Franklin High School for the incident that they've had to deal with all week. They've actually been able to, congratulations to Jenny Wiley for really keeping everything calm and really going through the process. Also wanted to congratulate all the instructional assistants who are actually instructional assistants. They're very much a very vital part of our schools. I know that because I started off as an instructional assistant. And without instructional assistants, really the school can't run without instructional assistants because they know it all. So congratulations. I believe that their job is very vital because they know everything that's going on in the school. And without their assistance in helping the teacher and those in the schools, our schools will be lost. And I know that for a fact, because I've been there. So congratulations. I can't thank you enough for all the work that you do. And hopefully that we have to continue on to celebrate all the good things that you do for kids. So thank you. This week has been a kind of a sad week because of so many different incidents that's happened. But I think the overall is that as we think about all the good things also that happens not only in our individual schools, but also with things that are happening with our students. And as I visit some of my schools, I realize that they're doing some great things in the various schools in terms of motivating kids and really moving our academics forward. And for that, I really appreciate all the principals and the teachers in the Southeast schools for all the great work that they do, because I think that we don't thank them enough for the work that they do, because it's an everyday responsibility and they have to be creative on a regular basis to keep our kids occupied. So as I go and visit the schools and just observe what's going on in the schools, my heart goes out to all the teachers and instructional assistants, because without you, Seattle Public School wouldn't be where they are today. So thank you for all the hard work that you do. And also I wanted to say that this week has been a pretty sad week, and there's so many things that's been happening. But I think the overall, as I thought about all the great things that we're doing and everyone that's actually touching the lives of various kids and families, I think that the overall that makes a difference. Because when times become hard and we think of what's happening to various either best friends or what's happening with our students or certain families, we might not be able to know exactly what they're going through, but I think that the overall, what we do that adds to makes a difference in remembering them, not only in our prayers, but also at the same time, be as supportive as we can within our schools to make sure that we're providing opportunities for each one of our children or our students within our various schools, so that way we can provide them that education that we, the Seattle Public School, have promised to give them. So I really want to say I appreciate all the teachers and the principals and the IAs that are part of each one of the schools, because without them, we won't be able to do the job that we do today. So thank you very much for all the work that you do.
Director Mack and then Director Pinkham.
Well, good evening. We have a really long agenda in front of us, and I appreciate all of the folks that came out to testify and bring the issues and concern to us. As I've said before, it's one of my favorite parts of the evening because I want to hear what's going on, and I think that we as a board need to try to be responsive. I want to echo the gratitude, intense gratitude for the celebratory things we got to do earlier on in the evening, because I'm so proud of the work that goes on here in the district, and it's wonderful to start with that. And it has been a really difficult time personally with the loss of Ryan Dela Cruz. We passed a resolution a few months ago, number 17, around gun safety, that we support increasing gun safety legislation, a number of things. You can go and read it. And we've made our statement as a board that we were going to support that legislation. And I hope we can actually move some things forward so that we can stop this nonsense and stop losing our kids. So that's a heavy thing to talk about, but I'm wearing my orange, and I'm hoping we can take some real action to keep our kids safe. It's of the utmost priority. At our retreat this weekend, I was really moved by the board and staff that was there. We had a lot of great team building exercises. And we talked about teachers that impacted our lives and why. And the common thread through that was that teachers care for and love our students. Like, our favorite teachers are always the ones that saw us, recognized us, and cared for us. It's that emotional connection, it's that being present. And that's the same for every other staff person in our buildings and in our school district. But hearing this again at the retreat has really set the tone for me that's where it's at. It's about caring for our students, and that's where our focus needs to be. Of course, my job as board director and chair of operations actually has a lot of really policy wonky technical detail stuff that feels like it doesn't have any heart to it. But the focus on the kids and how that impacts the kids and why these policies impact the kids is where my brain is and my heart is. And I have a renewed commitment to that. And so I just want to express some additional gratitude for that, the really good retreat that we had together and that work that we are committed to doing together. Yesterday I had the opportunity to go to Garfield to experience the Seattle Skills Center and community partners. They've organized a try a trade opportunity. I think there were somewhere around 200 or more students there. They had backhoes and the harnesses. They got to climb a lighting pole. It was very interesting opportunities for students to see what apprenticeship opportunities exist for them and what other educational opportunities exist. So I was super excited to be a part of that and see it happen. I do not have any more community meetings set. I hope to get one set for August. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it happen. We have a lot of operations related, facilities master plan, a lot of work happening. I'm not sure I can actually fit a community meeting in, and I would attend Director Burke's this weekend, but my daughter's birthday sleepover is happening that night, so I can't make it happen. I wanted to also note that there was a request in the community to pull off, and I hope I get this right and not make another mistake, but pull off number 10 off the consent agenda related to the SPED contracts. And I wanted to make note that I decided not to pull it off because I didn't think we need to take more time in this meeting, but that staff very graciously provided the data around our employed FTE for SPED-related services and the contracted FTE. And the concern that I had raised was that we were potentially moving towards having more contracted staff as opposed to employed staff. And in the data, it shows that we only have about 6% of the total number of hours is contracted out, which is a completely reasonable expectation. And so that's why I didn't pull it off the agenda. And then I just wanted to let folks know that I did some additional due diligence to support that decision-making around the oversight of the appropriateness of our contracts. And I think that, to Director Burke's point around the growing of our city, it is intense. We've added far more buildings than we expected to. When Bex was passed, we've added an additional 6 buildings, I think, to manage the capacity and the growth in the city. And it's happening fast and hard, and we need dollars and planning, and it's a lot of work to be done, and we are on it. We are working harder with the city in our partnership agreement to do the analysis. We're doing our facilities master plan. And there's staff they work really, really hard, and we as a board are trying to set up those processes so that it's transparent, clear, planned out, and I'm just grateful for all of your support in those processes, that we are doing our best to provide every student with a great educational environment in the city.
Director Pinkham, please.
Tots Kalawit, good evening. I'll start off with the paraprofessionals and the support the SEAs and showing from. Thank you for coming out here because it does take to be cliche, a village to raise and get our children all educated. I still remember my custodian at my high school, Mr. Cerna, my bus driver, Delmer, when I was going to school. So these contacts that you make with all the staff that are in schools are vital and important. And I would say there's no minor role. Every role that each of you play is critical in the education of our students. And I appreciate you coming here and sharing your concerns and wanting to get the respect. Well, you have my respect, and thank you for all the work that you do. Congratulations to all the student athletes and their championships, and definitely to the Garfield chess team, because again, we're talking about more. Yes, it takes the physical dexterity, but also the mental toughness for athletes, but also chess. I played it when I was younger too, and it was my brother that taught me, and he's almost 8 years my senior, and it does help, with some critical thinking skills. So congratulations to those teams. Anya Day, thank you for coming here today and sharing your perspectives and showing your pride in your school, and then to be an elected official as well as your peer student here as well, to be the next leaders for your school. That the Nathan Hale is going in the right direction, and proud to say that's in my district. So good job to both of you, and congratulations on your new positions. Congratulations also to our nationally board certified teachers, 106. That's a fantastic number. Good job, and keep it up. The CTE, I'm gonna, I guess, have to find my way to Molly Moon's and try the summer special. When they showed it on screen, I said, "Where's the samples?" And but no one brought any samples. So I guess that's because you have to go buy it on your own and help contribute to the Seattle school. So we'll do that. The Leshai Orchestra, thank you for what they performance that they did for us today. And yes, my thoughts and condolences to the family and friends of Ryan Dela Cruz. And it's a shame that we have to say this kind of things, for our schools and students. But when anyone loses a family member or a friend, it's a sad time. But let's celebrate his life and be proud and grateful for the time that he spent with us. Let's see, going down my list here. The biliteracy recipients as well, looking at the long list of there, and thanks that students are coming out with me in more than one language, that they know how to speak and communicate in our growing diverse global economy and country and things. But I would be remiss if I don't acknowledge that one thing that we have lost here is the native languages. So maybe as we move forward, we can see somehow, hey, how can we revitalize native languages? Help tribes with getting their languages revitalized. Or some tribes have to adopt a neighbor's tribe because they indeed lost their language, but they're making efforts to bring it back. And that's a good segue for me to say I'm still going to push for a native-focused school, and that's maybe one thing that we can do, have a native language in that school, and help students grow up and learn the Lushootseed language of this, from this area, and not worry about, are we going to lose a teacher or not, but just to make it part of the system, part of the process, and that when we see this list in a couple of years to come, Lushootseed is going to be on that list for students that are getting that bilingual certification. I'd also want to acknowledge that I was at Exine Middle School this past Sunday, as Sandpoint Elementary did a presentation of Salmon Boy. It was a Native American story that they adapted. So not just one class did it, they got their entire Sandpoint Elementary School involved in this production. It was amazing to see. So if you have a chance, and if it's going to be shown again, please go out there and do so and see what the students got involved with and how they're learning about the Native community. Because I know the story of Salmon Boy, but the audio wasn't too good, so I feel sorry for those that didn't know the story, that they might have missed some things. So if you have a chance to go see a smaller presentation, please do so. And again, thank you to Sandpoint Elementary and sharing their presentation of Salmon Boy. And those that are involved include Fern Renville, Chris Dargry, Sumiyaya Diop, if I apologize for mispronouncing any names, Roger Fernandez, and Mylin Huggins. So I only have one brochure from it, so if anybody wants to look at it, please feel free. I too do not have any community meetings planned for the rest of this year, but you can reach me via email, sspinkham@seattleschools.org or .com. Org, yeah. And I don't email myself.
Scott.Pinkham at
Scott.Seattle.
seattleschools.org.
Easier, okay. But I just want to say thank you to everyone that came here tonight, Katsiali, and to my fellow board members, and hope our missing board member gets well soon.
Okay, last, hopefully not least, again, a huge thank you for y'all and your time, but mostly what you do every day. What you do every day for our students. The boots on the ground folks don't get enough credit, and they don't get enough money. No question about it. Absolutely no question about it. And you deserve more respect. Period. End of story. Where we find that money to get you professional development, your own laptops, after next year is very troubling to me, given what the legislature did to the school districts in the middle of the night. And every time I hear that we fix McCleary, quote unquote, it's all I can do not to yell out, and in fact have, fake news. Fake news, fake news, fake news. Next year looks good. Years 2 and 3, horrific. So when we're doing our interest-based bargaining, let's figure out where we can get those funds to do right by folks. But it would be irresponsible to say that X, Y, or Z is going to happen, and probably illegal as well now that bargaining is commenced. And it's troubling, but I know that my colleagues up here are going to work as hard as we can to do right and do fair, given the confines that the legislature has dropped this turd on our door. And yeah, that's what I said. Congratulations to Chandra Hampson, the incoming president of the Seattle Council of PTSAs. Seattle Council of PTSAs met this last week. It all runs together. Monday night, I believe, at Washington Middle School. It was a great turnout. Superintendent designee Juneau was there. Lots of good fellowship, lots of great ideas. And just like all the rest of the, I'm starting to talk like y'all, stakeholders, they bring extreme devotion, love, and frankly, financial resources to the table. And one of the issues that's being talked about is the concept of equity in PTSA fundraising. And that certainly was a hot topic, very hot topic at my last community meeting. And it was almost a microcosm of the polarity of these issues. And in my last community meeting, we did have lasagna, and you missed a good time. And I hope that you come to my community meetings. You all are welcome. They're rowdy, they're thoughtful. And I don't have one scheduled yet for this summer, but I'm thinking maybe to change the format and get one of the picnic shelters down at Lincoln Park and throw a barbecue and have a party and celebrate each other and have fellowship and argue and celebrate. And I sincerely hope we see staff there as well. Other things I've been up to. We had an outreach for BEX 5 and the OPS levy last week with the Seattle Chinese community. Way to go, Carrie, Rachel, Tom. It was well attended, and it was a blast. And again, it's about equity, it's about needs being met, but mostly it's about communicating with each other and not leaving folks behind. With respect to some of the testimony I heard tonight, Could not agree more in terms of ethnic studies. It's my understanding there are 2 stipend positions for teachers posted presently to start working on that curriculum. And I've already been spreading the word as loud and as wide as I can to get folks that are involved already in ethnic studies to assist us on that good work. And Onade, Onyada, I'm sorry. We have an ethnic studies task force, and it's a public meeting. And that gentleman over there, Associate Superintendent Michael Tully, he's going to wave at you. You're going to talk to him before you leave so that you are on the email list and you can come on down and be student voice, because we need a whole heck of a lot more student voice. Does that work for you? Terrific. Thank you. Talk about putting them on the spot. Sunday, I got to spend the day in South Park at the Cesar Chavez celebration, and I can't encourage you enough. It's usually the first Sunday in June. It's a good time. The music is awesome. The food is awesome. The fellowship is awesome. And we remember how many people came before us for the kinds of rights that we enjoy now. We also remember how much farther we have to go. It's a journey. National Board Certified Teachers, it's my understanding that that is a very big lift, and it's actually fairly expensive, and it's very time-consuming. So it's not just passing a test. This is a very big deal, and thank you to our teachers that chose to take this on. Thank you to the City Council for trying to restore some of the K-5 services, family support workers, sustain the gain that we make in Seattle preschool, and not have that donut hole. Crazy making. I still, however, and no treat, Mr. General Counsel, if they take me to PDC jail, take me away. We have yet to get a solid answer from the city as to whether or not charter schools are covered in the Families in Ed preschool promise program. And recall that this board does not support charter schools, and that 3 previous boards does not support charter schools, and that the majority of charter schools nationwide are anti-union to their very core. And it would seem to me that we need to have that answered sooner rather than later. I appreciate it's a legal issue. I appreciate that it has been sent to the Seattle City Attorney's Office. But at the end of the day, it's also a political issue. And we deserve an answer to that, and we deserve the reasoning behind it as opposed to dodge and weave. It is so my pleasure and honor to do this work with the good people I work with up here on the dais and the good people in this district. And with that, we're taking a break, and we will come back at 7:25. Thank you.